All right, so how many people here enjoy football? A few people, okay. What are some of these teams that we like? What are some teams you guys like? Green Bay. Trojans, okay. Well, today I'm going to be talking more about professional football, more specifically the Raiders, and why they are going to the playoffs this year. So my claim is the Raiders will make it to the playoffs this year in the NFL. Seems like I'm going to have to do a lot of convincing there. However, my 3 points will be that currently they are in a position to win over their division. My second point will be that the team has been trying to build themselves for years and it's paying off now. And my third point is that the Raiders have received a new set of players which will contribute to their success. So, going to my first point, currently the Raiders are in a position to win over their division. Right now, as of their last game against the Broncos, their record is 2-3, which is 2 wins and 3 losses. However, in a regular season, there are 16 games. So there have been plenty of teams who have come back from a 2-3 record to a winning playoff record. One example of this would be this last year's Seahawks, which ESPN's Power Rankings has in their rankings for this week. They discussed about how last season's Seahawks were in a similar situation to how they are now, which was that they were 3-3, and at this point in their season, and they ended up completing their regular season with a 12-4 record. That means that they out of the next 10 games after the 3-3 record, they won 9 out of them. So there is hope for our Raiders. So basically, for my first point, I was trying to get across that the season has just begun. So there's still plenty of time for the Raiders to show that they're going to be making it to the playoffs. My next point would be that the team has been trying to build themselves for years, and it is paying off. So we all know that the Raiders don't have too good of a reputation around the league. I have here that they're coming out of seasons where they were one of the lowest teams in the NFL standings. And from the football database, they haven't had a winning record since 2002, which was 13 years ago. And when I was looking through these stats on the NFL official website, from 2002 to today, you're able to see how they've been attempting to change players around and see what works, just to show that they're trying to get to the playoff level. However, as of this year, they acquired a new head coach that will contribute to their success. His name is Jack Del Rio. They hired him mid-January, and he's coached for teams that have made it to the playoffs and the Super Bowl, which is also stated on the NFL official site as well. And so the Raiders are hoping that he'll bring that experience to their team and hopefully take them to the playoffs. So now, probably the most important part, we're going to be talking about the people who are actually in the game, which leads me to my third point, that the Raiders have received a new set of players which will contribute to their success. The new players these new guys, during the draft, they were looking for people to fill the spots that they were lacking in. So their first round pick, they picked up Amari Cooper for the wide receiver position. And on the Raiders official site, I have a comment from Del Rio, Coach Del Rio, saying that he's seen Cooper perform when he was in college, and he's seen Cooper perform a wide range of offense styles, and he has seen him take on a wide range of roles in the wide receiver position. And specifically, he says that he has run the entire route tree. For their second round pick, they picked up Marion Edwards Jr. For the defensive end and defensive tackle positions. On a side note, also on the defensive side, they have their veteran Charles Woodson, and he's been a key factor in the Raiders' defense. When you go onto the NFL official site his stats for season 4, or I'm sorry, his stats for this season, he already has 4 interceptions in these last 5 games that he's played, which puts him tied for the #1 spot in most interceptions this season so far. For their 3rd round pick, they picked up Clive Walford for the tight end position. I have another comment from Del Rio, which is on the Raiders official site, and it says that Del Rio believes that he's going to be a key player because he sees Walford as a complete tight end, which means that he can both catch and he can block well, which is going to be very beneficial for Derek Carr, who was their 2nd round pick last season, and that he's their quarterback. And so the reason that they want to use Carr and the reason that they pick these players around Carr is because they want to develop Carr, which is they want to see him grow. They want to keep him for years to come. So essentially, the players they drafted and chose to play are to complement each other. Where they were lacking in one spot, they filled in position for another. So Carr's new; he's still trying to earn new stats, big stats. So they picked Amari Cooper to help him receive those higher stats, the higher yardage and stuff. So they also will be relying on Woodson on the defensive side to continue playing how he is now for their defense. And so, in conclusion, because the Raiders are developing their coaching staff and player depth, they will be able to overcome their current losing record and turn it into a winning record that will get them into the playoffs.
Everybody's got notifications and things going off. I keep hearing these things happening. Make sure my phone's off. It's always embarrassing when that happens. Sound off, okay. Somebody else. All right, David. The audience survey is okay. I think the proposition's clearly identified. I believe it's plenty controversial. I think you're going to find a lot of people would be hard-pressed to be convinced of the position that you're taking here. You did a good job previewing what the supporting structure is going to be. That part's good. I'm not sure that the secondary issues that you develop are the most appropriate ones for the claim that you're making. I think there's a good argument to be made that says the team's going to improve, but the claim is that you're making is that they're going to make the playoffs this year. So I think we need to have a more elaborate assessment of their division, of the remaining schedule, of the relative health of the team, that sort of thing, of maybe past comparisons of how successful they've been against the defensive schemes, against teams that they're playing, that kind of thing. If it turns out that other teams in their division have substantial injuries to key players, that would be something that would be helpful too. And when you remind us about the statistic about their record, you should also point out that you don't have to have a winning record to make the playoffs. You just have to win your division. And if you are in a crappy division, and because we got the Chargers and Kansas City and Denver. So it's basically Denver and the Raiders that you have to worry about. Kansas City's down. Chargers are basically wiped out last night or the night before. Their hearts are broken. They're not going to go anywhere this year. A factory of sadness down there in San Diego. So I think you've got you need more analysis of that issue because that's the argument that you're making. Not just that they're going to get better, but they're going to make the playoffs. Now, the stuff that they're going to get better, I think, is helpful to making that argument also. And you did a good job identifying some of the reasons to be hopeful. The development of the quarterback Carr, I think, needs to be developed a little bit more. But you mentioned, it was strange, though, that you mentioned the receiver, you mentioned the defensive end, I think, that you talked about. The only one that you gave any stats on, though, is Woodson, who's been around forever. And so I'm wondering, well, where's the stuff that shows that these people are going to improve or step up over what's been happening in the past? If there's, we're 5 games in, that's more than a quarter of the season. Do we have some statistics on their receiving yardage, number of touchdowns scored, sacks, how's the defense doing against the offenses that they're playing against, that sort of thing? I think you're missing some of the stuff there that would really make your argument a little bit more substantial with the players that you're talking about. So it's very hopeful to say all those kinds of things. And the one quote, the quotes that you have, the authority that you have that you're able to quote on this is the coach, what's the coach really going to, when you talk about bias on this, what's the coach going to say? Well, our players suck and we don't have much chance, that's not the way they're going to talk, that sort of thing. And Jack Del Rio has one thing going for him. He's a Trojan, fight on. But he also has a couple things going against him, and that is that his previous job, he spent 11 years as the coach of the Jaguars, and never went anywhere with the Jaguars. So that's a little sad too. So you got to think about those things. That'll probably be an argument that we'll hear from the respondent speaker. All right, thank you.